Hello. It's Sunday morning. It's 9:11 a.m. Exactly, according to my Apple Watch. Let me put my watch on since it's 100% charged. I've been up since 5:45, so I feel like I've been up all day already. And so we've got a lot of very interesting things. I'm going to put this up on the screen. I have an important banking friend of mine, in which we managed about managing $4.8 million worth of financing. And he asked me the question. He says, "What with Republic Bank going down? Is this going to be a big domino effect?" Well, bingo. Here's my answer. It took a while. There's not much here, but it took a while to write this because my banking client is very smart. So you want to say things that are factually correct, although I do say IMHO in my humble opinion. But, people that I know in the business, in case you don't know me better than I used to be a bank CEO, a bank holding company CEO, and an advisor to the board of directors of an insurance company. And during time periods, that here's a chart of the Fed. Well, let me go and see what I said. So, no banking dominoes effect. Period. There will probably be a few more bank failures due to gross mismanagement and discounting of their treasury bill portfolios. Recall the Fed increased the discount rate from 1/8 to about 5% in less than 12 months. Now this puts a big, but just take a treasury portfolio. Let's just say a one-year treasury bond, treasury bill that you would buy. Let's say it was $1 million, and you bought it. Let's just say 3%. So that's the coupon rate of the treasury bill. You bought $1 million worth. Now all of a sudden the Fed increases the interest rate by let's say 2.5%. Over 12 months they did 5. So let's just say 2.5% over 6 months. Well, your treasury bill portfolio would just have decreased in value by about 40%. Can you imagine? You expect to make, 1% maybe, or a half, 0.75% yield on that treasury bill, or 2% in this, in my example. And all of a sudden, you get discounted by $400,000 on $1 million that you invested. So you sell it and you only get $600,000 back. Usually when you sell a treasury bill, $1 million, you would get, $1 million plus, $25,000 in interest. At 2.5%, something like that. So that's what's happening. news gets out about these banks that aren't being run right. Oops. And, so people start pulling out their deposits. Well, about, let's just say 75% of your deposits are invested, generally in treasury bills and other really safe assets, maybe a real estate loan that's very properly margined, meaning a very valuable property, that you have and you make a loan on a property down here in South Florida, and it's really well located, and yada, yada, yada. So, you make that loan. Well, you feel really good that you're gonna get your principal back plus interest, as opposed to buying, closed real estate loans in other parts of the country that you're not familiar with. So that's what I'm saying right here. The Fed increased the discount rate from 1/8 to 5%. Well, if you're sitting there with 3-4 year treasury bills, which you hold to maturity, and all of a sudden the Fed fund rate increases, 2 or 3% over the last 6 months. That's a huge hit. So if news gets out that the bank isn't being run right, I don't know how that news slips out, but it slips out. You got people that are on the board of directors that may tell their friends, and then their friends tell other friends, that the bank management just told me that, we really have a problem with our cash portfolio. Fed funds is our treasury bills is considered cash, in most, accounting firms and so forth. But that's assuming that you're on the right side of the interest rate, escalator. Rates go up. Fixed rate securities get discounted. But there's a wild card, that you can do, and you pay 1/8 or 3/16, somewhere in there, for a hedge. You buy a hedge. And what's a hedge? A hedge is you pay a premium, like let's just say 1/8, and they basically say that if these treasury bills, and they're labeled by their CUSIP numbers, let's say total $1 million, we guarantee, the hedge, that you will, you'll make, 2% interest on the, no matter what happens with the interest rate market, we're going to guarantee you that you're going to get 2% yield over the next year. So, that's called a hedge, but it costs you 1/8. Now, 1/8 of a point doesn't sound like a lot of money, but you multiply that by, millions of dollars, and, it turns out to be real money. It's all real money, but so let's just multiply it out here on I got a calculator up here on my, on my pad. So let's take $5 million. Let's see. Oops, too many zeros. Okay. Times 0.0125. So that would be the premium for, that hedge equals. So you're at it. So you're going to. So you want to protect that $5 million portfolio at, whatever average interest rate it is, over the next year. It's going to cost you $62,500. Now, so 1/8 sounds like chopped liver, but let's divide that by 5. So that's $12,500 per million. Okay. So there it is right there. So that's serious money. And some of these banks didn't want to pay the premium because they're already suffering losses. Yeah, so, and as the interest rates, volatility increases, that premium goes up. Because it's, multi-million dollar purchases, it's, it's somewhere between an eighth and 3/16. So it's not the end of the world, but you got to pay it, And everybody knew 2 years ago, that interest rates are going up. I mean, period. Biden gets in there with all his spending plans and so forth. The Fed is going to increase rates, and they're going to go up in a large way. And we can cut down that detailed message from this. There's a tornado warning is in for Palm Beach County. Wonderful. Maryland is driving back from East Vero Beach or whatever, and having to drive through, all these areas with the triangles. So it's going to be a fun drive back. Jeez. Oh, God. Let me see. She had some... all right, so I haven't heard from Marilyn. She said she was going to start back here after breakfast. So it's 9:30. They're up all night talking. They're probably getting up till 10. There's 5 friends of Marilyn that all got together. They're people that went to the same elementary school as Marilyn. There's 5 of them. Let's see. I have a picture of. Let's do it on here so you can all see. So we're going to go to photos. Where's that? I lost that stupid thing. There it is. Okay. So we're going to shrink that down and get a picture of. There we go. There's 6 of them, including Marilyn. I think the one on the lower right flew in from Texas. And this one here is Lynn Ward Fields. Lynn Ward. And this is Hilda. That's Marilyn up in the top right. And I think this lady on the left, top left, is not there. This is Joanne Fiore, maybe. You kind of hear these names. I've met. I think I met everybody there. At where did I meet them? I met them at one of Maryland's high school reunions, where they invite spouses, if you have a spouse, or a significant other, if you're between spouses. Anyway, so one of the men, Hilda, she has Alzheimer's. You never hear about that for a woman, Alzheimer's. Or, unless you have it going on in your family, you really don't, pay that much of attention. But it's a dementia ailment, in the brain, and it affects other parts of your body because the brain controls everything. And apparently Hilda's Alzheimer's is getting worse, you know. So they all got together in the Orlando area, east on the coast. And Hilda's son is driving Hilda to the lunch meeting, friendship luncheon yesterday, somewhere. So they all went over and they had lunch. Everyone except for the lady on the top left. She didn't come, I don't think. Anyway, so they had lunch, and I haven't heard the result of that. When they had their reunions of their friends in elementary school, I don't go. Can you imagine? Listen to all these women yakky about stuff that you don't know anything about because you didn't go to their high school, which I didn't. I was on the other side of the planet, up in the North Shore of Long Island. Graduating high school or something or other, in 1963. And 1963, these kids are floating around. Haven't had a sip of their first beer yet. Ooh. I'm 7 years older than Marilyn, so it's not a lot of time between us. And we've been married 42 years. Can you imagine? 1991. June 1991.
Thank you for that information.
June 1981. 1981. So, long time ago. Different age. We were both working for Royal Trust Bank. Anyway, so, things turned out all right. Wonderfully. So, I'm not banking anymore, and she is. So that's good. Anyway, so she's up there, and, let's say by it's 9:40. What time is it? 9:28. I don't know why this iPad always says 9:41. What time is it? It's not 9:41. Let's go to settings. Does it have a time there? I don't see anything where it says. I'll have to research that. Why that says 9:41 when it isn't. It's 9:29, right? 9:29 on there. 9:29 on this. On my what do you call it board? It says 9:29:30. 9:29:33. 34. 35. 36. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm a picture. So I say picture. So this is where they are. New Smyrna Beach is where they are. So this is Marilyn took pictures. This is from her balcony, looking kind of northeast. That's a big microwave repeating tower. So looking at the shadows, which the sun's this way, so this way. So this would be, looking northeast. There's another one that's looking southeast because you can see the shadow. The sun is over here, shining this way. So that's pretty good, right? What else we got? This is looking east. There's the ocean. Taken yesterday at 9:47 a.m. So they're packing up their stuff and this and that. It was my birthday recently. Happy birthday from our friend, Mr. Trump. I had a glorious cup of soup yesterday at whatever, does this have a time on it? 11:30 a.m., 11:13 a.m., see up in the middle. Yep. That chicken noodle soup. This is what I do is, what you can see, that is a little over an inch piece of spaghetti. So I took 2 handfuls of spaghetti and I stuff it in this cup, which this is the top of the cup. You see it says Disney there? Lion Country. We stayed at Lion Country and the actual Lion Country Hotel, whatever they call it. I forgot what they call it. So that's the mug. You can see some. Mr. Clumsy, there it is, right there. Tap it. There's another little evidence of. Oh. You see the side of the cup? I can get the cup and show you, but anyway, I love these cups. They're like 20-ounce cups, and they're great for a nice mug of soup. So I take the pasta is a bunch of cut up. I cut it with scissors, and that's in 1 cup. I put that in the microwave for 1.5 minutes, which warms up the pasta to like 130 degrees. Then I take chicken broth and pour it not to the top because there's a lot of pasta, about 2/3 of the way up the cup with clear chicken broth. And then I sprinkle some seasoning and put that in the microwave for about 3 minutes. And that heats up the soup big time. It just gets it under boiling. It gets it to about 165, 170 degrees. All right? So you take that, and then I pour it through a coarse strainer into the cup that has the chopped pasta. And bammo, we have chicken broth, chicken noodle soup. And the question is, do you want to heat it up a little more or not? So I have a thermometer. Yeah, now we got some emergency message from West Palm Beach. Tornado warnings. Sighting in West. Yeah, a warning is one thing. Sightings is something else. Now you're riding in a car, tornado. You want to be driving away from that tornado. Anyway, but it could be surrounded by very serious, rainy weather. So she's not. Her trip down here isn't because the real bad part of that storm. Let's see. There's my Radar Pro. Let's take a look. I mean, the internet is great. Ooh, I don't like that. Look at that. You see it right there. Oh, boy. So, right when she gets to...
My name is Lauren. I'm 35 weeks pregnant.
So she's going to have some bad weather, rainy. But when you get to North Palm Beach, Vero Beach to North Palm Beach, now she won't get there until like 4 o'clock if she leaves right now. So she's up here, up around the Titus, just north of Titusville. New Smyrna Beach. See, the name just popped up. Drives down 995. It's 290 miles. So it's a 6-hour drive. And with bad weather, there could be 6.5-hour ride. She's driving in a modern Tesla with the autopilot. Look at all that lightning in those storm centers. See that? This version of my radar actually counts lightning strikes, and every time it strikes, you can see one of those electrical Z's on there. That's lightning. So anyway, so that's the exciting with the weather. She hasn't left yet, so I'm gonna talk to her before she leaves or when she's in the car, and try to talk some caution into her driving. Yeah. I think she's beating the storm in the sense that don't be in a hurry to leave. Look at that. The storm is moving at at 53 miles an hour. That gives you how fast that's what that little, see right there, 53. You can notice that. That little pink box, that's the wind speeds that are in the middle of that sucker. So, yeah, it's not hurricane force, but it's a lot of force for your basic rain shower, so to speak. So we'll keep an eye on that. Anyway, so my banking friend got me, in the mindset for all this interest rate stuff. And will other banks fail? And my answer is, which you can see in that write-up I had, that there could be a bank failure, 2, 3, 4. They're I think they're like about 3,000 banks. There were 7,000. Now there's like 3,000 because you've had a lot of mergers. Let's type a question now. Many banks. Relationship between an interpreter and the soldiers and the folks that are deployed there to in the U.S. Afghanistan. So one of the scenes that I love about this movie is the interpreter says to the sergeant, it's specifically saying, "I'm an interpreter," and he says, "Just say enter." Saying, "I'm not just a language interpreter." There we go. It goes beyond just the language. All right. As of September 8th. That's a fast answer. Political culture that exists in these communities to be able to save the lives of these soldiers. And that's precisely one of the greatest moments in the movie that I'm glad they captured. You're exactly right. I mean, I've had interpreters all right. Say, "Sir, don't go down that road right now." See, you can see right there the top. How many banks? As of September 8th, there are 4,951 banks. Well, when I ran the bank that I ran, Southern Security Bank, there was 7,100 banks. So the 2,000 banks that are no longer with us, not because of closings, because there are not many banks that get closed. Regardless of how it sounds in the media, they're just, so now we have 3. But they're, one of them was 109 billion, which is not exactly chump change. And one was 200 billion. And, this one's 100 and something billion. So you got let's just say $425 billion worth of banks in 3 banks that have failed in the last month. Now, are there going to be a lot more? No, I don't think so. I personally don't think so. I think this latest bank, which is about 100 billion, got caught in the interest rate squeeze with the Fed increasing rates, and they did not have hedged portfolios. They did not buy hedges on their portfolios, so they got discounted. And word gets out, they're not supposed to talk. The board of directors is supposed to keep quiet. And, when these banks start to fail, they don't fail in a minute. They fail over, I can look at a bank balance sheet and tell you if it's going to fail or not, very easily, because I'm familiar with bank financial statements. It's like a factory. The difference between an iPhone factory and a bank factory. They're both businesses. They're both in business to make a profit. They both have board of directors and executive officers and middle-level officers and low-level officers. So, but one makes iPhones and the other company makes loans. They literally manufacture. They make money with money. So the difference between the iPhone company, Apple, say, and a bank is Apple gets all these natural resources together and, creates an iPhone. And then they have the iPhone available and they sell it to Jimmy for, $1,500. These little suckers aren't cheap. This is the biggest screen and the newest cameras, and I'm a technology character, so. But a bank, it uses all its resources and so forth. It has lenders, as some of its senior and middle-level line officers to make loans. So a loan is created by a bank servicing its local community. And, then their client can go buy their office building. I'm making up a story. So it's a very, the owner of the office building said, "Hey, Jimmy, I need $5 million to buy this office, or build this office building. I'll put $2 million in cash in, and you give me $3 million, as a loan. That adds 2 and 3 is 5. That's not very complicated math, right? So 5. It might be $1.5 million in cash, and $3.5 million loan. That's probably a better, more realistic ratio. So 75% loan to value or loan to cash, whichever is the lesser. How about that language? I wrote that a lot of times, and I was a real, persnickety guy on wanting cash equity in a real estate project. Unrealized equity because the value increases. That's a nice little piece of protection. I still want to see, a $5 million deal. I want to see at least $1 million minimum in there by, $1 million that I can count, verified cash in the deal. Their money goes in before my money goes out. So, if you've got real good loan portfolios like that and so forth, you wouldn't hedge that portfolio because the rates that I have in that loan are called floating rate loans, for example. So as the interest rates go up, my interest rate that I get paid goes up. And the borrower has to pay, a little more in a monthly payment because it floats, a floating rate loan. Now, if you fix rate the loan, that's like, fix is like that's like a dirty word. I don't know how to fix. because commercial banks, now, you fix some. But if if you want to have a portfolio of single family loans that are fixed and they all get put together and whatever the current interest rate market is. Now, I might hedge that portfolio. If I'm going to hold it, I'll buy a hedge. And then a hedge company comes in and they analyze the interest rates on the portfolio. And then they charge you a premium to guarantee yield. So if I have a fixed rate portfolio, that's at 5% of residential loans. The Fed fund rate right now is 5%. So let's say my cost of funds will be less than 5%, because of people that have regular checking accounts where we don't pay interest on checking accounts. So I'm just making it simple here. So a 5% portfolio, and a hedge company comes in and says, okay, what they analyze the portfolio is 5%. And, they analyze what the collateral is. It's real estate stuff locally. It's properly margined, meaning it's 75% loan to value or loan to cost, whichever is the lesser. And so they say, okay, well, what's the risk of this portfolio, getting damaged, being discounted because the global interest rate market goes up and you're sitting there with a 5% fixed rate portfolio. So the hedge fund in that case would pay, us at the maturity of the hedge a guaranteed return of 5%. And even though the portfolio and the principal amount is, a $5 million portfolio in my little hypothetical. So if the interest rate market goes to 6% because of the Fed with the Biden administration, those people that didn't buy a hedge, they would suffer like a 20% loss. Whoa. Woo. So you got $10 million portfolio, and all of a sudden it goes down 20%. That's $2 million loss instead of making, 5%. You lose 20%. Well, that happens too often. That's going to put the big stress on a bank. So, what's the solution to that? Ba-ba! The hedge fund. Hedges will come in. A hedge fund will come in and charge a premium to guarantee a rate. So the hedge fund people, they analyze what the interest rate risk is. In other words, is it going to be a year from now? Is it going to be 6% or is it going to be 4%? And I have a portfolio at 5%. That's exactly what they analyze. They got a bunch of geniuses, that write up reports and say this is the net present value of, a 5% portfolio in an increasing interest rate scenario. And this is what the net present value would be in a decreasing interest rate scenario. And all that gets mishmashed together. And then the analysts come back to the hedge fund manager and say, well, for us to provide a hedge for that portfolio, we're going to charge 3/16 premium. 3/16. So let's get my calculator out here. It's on my iPad. The magic of an iPad. So we're going to clear out the what you call it. And 3/16 is 375. 0.0375. So I'm going to multiply my $5 million, my fictitious example here, times 0.0. 375. That's 3/8. That's pretty high. Let's say it's going to be a little. Let's say it's going to be. I back that up here. Let's say it's going to be, 0.03% instead of 375. Okay, 0.03. All right, hit the return button. Equals. So you have to pay $150,000 premium to the hedge fund. So they write a contract. Our lawyer reads the contract, and the lawyer and it says, we're going to guarantee you $5 million, and 5% of $5 million. What's that? Do it quick. $5 million times 0.05 equals. So I'm going to make $250,000 gross yield on a $5 million portfolio because it's 5%. But I got to pay. What was that? 150,000? Yeah. I got to pay 150,000 to the hedge fund. So now I'm only going to make, 100,000. Well, some of these greedy directors, board, managers say, "Oh, I don't want to spend $250,000 to protect that portfolio, or 150,000," and they, take a hike. So they don't hedge it. Well, guess what? The interest rate scenario goes up, and that portfolio goes down in value. And remember, a bank every quarter, 4 times a year, they have to do their financial statement. 1 quarter of it, usually year end, is audited, and 3/4 of it is not audited. But the reputable accounting firm is watching over the bank for the other 3/4 and assisting them in creating the statements, but they're not audited. But at the end of the year, they audit everything, which means they count, and they're in the background making sure the numbers are correct. And they count certain things as a test. And if the tests come up, then they'll stop counting. And if our numbers compared to what the auditors counted are not the same, the audit firm then, decides whether they want to do more counting to make sure things are, you got number A and whole A and so forth. So that's what happened with these 3 banks. All 3 of them did not buy hedges on their portfolios, even though for the last 2.5 years, we knew the interest rates were going to go up. I mean, it was at an eighth plus or minus, a 64th, for 9 years. I mean, how long can interest rates be that low? Oh, geez. So, anyway, pretty silly. So, if you know you're going to buy a hedge on a portfolio, so then you have to go back to your lenders and say, hey, you know what? Instead of 5% interest rate, I need to charge 5.5%. I need an extra 0.5% added in there because I'm going to have to hedge this portfolio. So if you want to make fixed rate loans, and we got to go 50 basis points over market. And, it's still a nice loan, Everybody doesn't get, the lowest rates that you ever hear in a news broadcast. But if you're within 50 basis points, they're gonna take the deal because they want to deal with the bank and the local. They know the people and this and that, and it's convenient, and they didn't have to shop at the 9 different banks and deal with loan brokers, which you have to pay fees for. And, all that adds up to something. So, oops, I lost my. There we go. So that's my story on banking stuff. Let's get out of there. Let's go back to my picture portfolio. There's my chicken soup We talk about all things in this broadcast of 45 minutes and 37 seconds. So Daniel sent me a picture of his dog. So what did I do? I sent him a picture of my cat in the sleeping position. He's up on top of the cat. Look at this guy's eyes are. He's keeping a little tiny peek on Jimmy. And where's the picture of his dog? There it is. So that's his dog's name is Sky. It's a 50-pound dog as opposed to a 20-pound cat. Or 18 pounds, whatever. It's 18, 19-pound cat. Probably a pound overweight. But he's my boy cat. My Lion King. So his ears are pointing right at me. His eyes... his eyes are not quite shut because you can see just a little tiny piece of an eyeball in there. I mean, I got pictures of the cat where, you can really see cat's eye. Let's see if I gotta come up with a fast picture here. Look, scroll through this stuff. This is how I decide what to talk about. Whoop, here's two cats with two eyes. Yeah, look at that, two tuxedos. So, this one's the boy cat. This is the girl cat. You can tell because the boy cat has got a black chin with a little white thing on it and a very pink nose. And the girl cat is all white in the face. So, if you ever want to come to my house and figure out which is the boy and which is the girl without flipping them over and doing a surgery procedure. Hey, you. Shrimp with stir-fried rice. Okay, so Elon Musk had a big rocket, his Mars rocket thing. 4 minutes into the flight, they had to self-destruct it. It didn't blow up. I read the post-mortem on that launch, which was a couple weeks ago. And 4 minutes into the flight, once they determined that the rocket is not following the flight plan, in other words, you have the booster, and then when it gets up to an exact certain point, MECO happens. MECO, main engine cutoff. Well, MECO didn't happen. That's one of the things we're going to hear more on the post-mortem when they do the post-mortem. And MECO didn't happen. So you didn't have the main engine cutoff, and you didn't have stage separation. So, the second stage, which is the payload, which was empty at this, it didn't have any manned, it wasn't a manned flight, and there was no satellites or anything that were going to be launched out of that thing. So you didn't have stage separation. So MECO didn't happen. It didn't separate, and the secondary stage engines, three engines, did not ignite. So once they determined that, they hit the button. They said, hey, this sucker's, this flight isn't working. So, and it's all, computer controlled to the millisecond on when things happen and the amount of thrust. I mean, all this stuff goes through some very exotic equations because they're trying to insert it in an orbit, and then they're going to break the orbit and go up into the moon or whatever the flight plan was. But you didn't have main engines even cut off. So that means you weren't going to be able to land that booster back, Boca Chica, and they had extra fuel on board. Oh no, they were going to let it land into the, I guess, the Atlantic Ocean. But it didn't do that. It got blown up. So that's what happened to that guy. So I was looking at this picture right here. That's pretty cool. This is at the bar, at the Chops Bar, which we went to very often before we had the pandemic. And I had quadruple bypass surgery 4 years ago. 4 years ago, June. So this is March, April, May, June. So in 3 months would be 5-year anniversary of I'm a survivor of quadruple bypass surgery. It's very serious surgery, you know. I mean, you hear about it all the time, you know. You don't hear about the occasions that don't work out that good. And I'll tell you a fast story. And, okay. So anyway, so we're at Chops, and I don't know whether Marilyn had her hand out. Yeah, I guess Marilyn had I think I had my hand on the camera, and she had the hand on her camera, iPhone camera, and did a selfie. And we got the sign in the background, as you can see. It says, "Welcome back, Jim. We love you." So since I was there all the time, and then not at Chops all the time for about 4 months, they're wondering, "Oh my God, how's Jimmy?" And we haven't seen him. And I finally show up, and they're all excited, and they actually had they checked with Marilyn or somebody, maybe one of my sons, to find out when they could hang this poster. And they hung it there, and they kept it there for like a week, which is pretty cool. Yeah, we kept on going back, and "We love you, Jimmy." And all the other patrons saying, "Who the hell's Jimmy?" So if I hear that when I'm sitting at the bar, I say, "I'm Jimmy, down here." Quadruple bypass survivor. Anyway, so while I'm rehabilitating, rehab. So you go and you're treadmilling, and they have, a five element heart thing that, it's on a radio control, and it goes up to the head desk, and every patient, so they have like 16, television screens with their, with the heart rate showing on the monitor. And so, and you go through 5 or 6 different, they have this thing, bicycle with your hands, at a certain amount of stress. And then they have, the regular treadmill, which you pace yourself on how fast you want to walk and whether you want a slight incline or not. So, and you move around the gymnasium, and they have this, you're wired up. So if anything, if your heart starts to, not behave properly, they come and grab you and send you to the hospital, which is, like 2 buildings away. It's almost like an adjacent building to the hospital. It's right across the street, actually. The catty corner, a block across the street. But, since it's a separate, medical, whatever it's not exactly the same as the hospital, but it's, Boca Raton Regional, Medical Center, and this is the rehab thing. They actually call for an ambulance, and the ambulance will come and take it across the street, for a mere $400 or whatever. Anyway, I never had to get carried out of there, but I did rehab for 6 months. So I'm sitting, so you sit down, they had like 2 rows of chairs, like I'm going to say 8 seats, so 8 seats, 4 times 8 is 32. So they have like rows of 8. And so I sit in the front row, because I'm usually there early. So if I'm 11 o'clock, I'm there at 10:45. And, I put my sneakers on or whatever, or I come dressed for that, usually. But I got my little game bag. You put it in your locker, and you take a key and put the key around your wrist with a little elastic thingy. So I'm sitting there, and when you're doing something for 4 or 5 months, you kind of like to get to know who's sitting next to you, when they come early and whatever. So I'm chit-chatting with this guy. And he says, "Oh, yeah, I'm back here. I had triple bypass surgery, like 8 months ago, but I had to do it again." I said, "You had to do it again?" Holy mackerel. So you survived 2 bypass. I said, "Why'd you have to do it again?" He said, "Because the bypasses didn't stay. They didn't work. They ran. It was like equivalent to a flat tire." He says they ran flat. I said, "Ran flat? I've never heard of that." And so I just chit-chat. I mean, I had a question that popped up right away in my mind, but I figured, let's just chit-chat for a little bit so I don't get, too aggressively considered on my conversation. So he's telling me this and telling me that, and oh my God, pains, and I ripped it back open. It's not quite as bad as the first time, but, there's still a buzzsaw in the middle of you. And he said, "Yeah, the 2 out of the 3 ran flat." I said, "God darn, how's that happen?" He said, "Well, I don't understand exactly how it happened." I said, "Well, who was the surgeon?" I figured now it's time to ask who was the surgeon. And he says, "Dr. Linda." And I said, "Oh, geez." So while we're having this conversation, because of my big mouth, and I'm like at the end of the row and talking towards, the middle of the row. And the guy sitting next to the guy sitting next to me, he said, "Oh, yeah, me too. I had quadruple bypass, and 3 of mine were in flat also." I said, "Really? So between the 2 of you, you had 7 flat tires." And I had to have the surgery done twice. I said, "So when you go back, you pay twice?" He said, I don't know exactly how that is. You have insurance and blah, blah, blah. And I said, "I guess I have, gap insurance in case they put a new tire on it and it runs flat." God damn. I mean, having the bypass is bad enough, but I said, "How do you know you had flat tires?" My analogy. He says, "Because, you start, all your symptoms come back. You walk across the room and you get winded. You need oxygen. I said, "Oh, yeah, okay. Yep, that's a good sign." I just wanted to know in case I want to have a flat tire. Holy crap. Gee. So a month later, I had a doctor's appointment with my cardiologist, who is the guy that did the angioplasty, which is all the photography work inside the heart. They run a thing up through your main artery in your groin, and it goes up, and it loops around. And they have all these photographs. And it's like 3D photography. And they had it for me, and it was real obvious I had major blockages, up to 96% blockage in several arteries, and one artery was almost sealed off. So I had one artery that was like the best artery was 75%. One was almost 0, and 2 of them were like in the 90s. Oh crap! This is not good. So he says, "We'll take care of this. I have an extremely good cardio surgeon, and Dr. Brian Bethay, and he did a marvelous job." Because according to my cardiologist, and this is after the surgery, he says, "Jimmy, your surgery was really tough. It was really difficult." I didn't want to say it was really difficult before years. I mean, all that kind of surgery is very radical. So he didn't mislead me into thinking, that it was, dangerous and that kind of thing because of survival rate. But he did tell me, which I privately, that the outcome was basically 50-50. I said, holy shit. So that means you flip the coin, that could come up tails. We don't want that. He says, no. He said, even though this surgery has a high mortality rate, you've got a really good surgeon, which is going to augment that, and if he does a real good job, you're going to come out of it 100%. So instead of 50% or 0%, I did not tell my wife and sons, wife, daughter, and sons. I did not say that, and no one asked because they were afraid to ask. And if they asked, I would have been afraid to answer, but neither happened. But I did not tell them that my cardiologist said it was a 50-50. I mean, they'd have been biting their fingers off instead of just the fingernails. So, as it turned out, it was a 10-hour surgery. Whew. It was very difficult to recuperate from the anesthesia because 10, 11 hours of anesthesia is, it's poison, and to be poisoned like that, numbing all your senses to the point where you can't feel anything, which is what anesthesia is. It's sometimes the operation was a success, but the patient dies because of the anesthesia. And I was all swollen up. My fingers were all thumbs. All my fingers were the diameter of my thumb. It looked like sausages coming off my hand, like link sausage. There, geez, I had 8 link sausages and 2 thumbs. It was pretty scary, right out of there. And Marilyn took a picture of her hand on my hand on her hand. And I had all these link sausages, and she had these attractive little skinny fingers. Oh, God. Whew. But anyway, I recovered from the stress. Oh, the stress on your body for that kind of surgery is just amazing. So, getting up and going to the bathroom, Mm-hmm. Oh, God. That was getting out of bed. Day one, they get you out of bed. And, oh, my God, they had the whole top part of you has been ripped open. And, they had this incision that's only about this thick, this length. But they stretch it. Oh, they make this big opening, that you can put a basketball through, but they only cut this much of your skin, and everything else just gets stretched. Oh, God. It's amazing how stretchy your skin is. You don't realize. But they stretch it right to the limit of the stretching so they can get to the heart and do everything they got to do. Wow. So when they put everything back together, they attach everything and they sew this up and they put liquid skin on top, which I've never heard of that, but they have some kind of liquid skin they put on there so you can't see any of the stitches. But, for months after the surgery, the whole surrounding skin was just so stretched that it was just aggravated and irritated for months, a number of months, maybe even 6 months. I don't feel any aggravation of that stretched skin now, but I did for, I'm going to say 6 months, 5 or 6 months, a long time. not the incision part. It was the stretched part. Whew. Anyway, it's amazing how they do it. Every time they do a bypass, 1, 2, 3, 4, they freeze the heart, which is where they chill the heart to such a degree that it stops. It slows down the beating to such a degree that the surgeons can do what they need to do to attach these arteries, because everything's like pulsating with your pulse. So they slow your pulse way down. Now they have a heart machine that's, running next to you, which provides the major circulation, of the blood through your lungs and through your heart and through all your organs and all that. So even though the heart is pumping real slow, your organs are kept going because they do the bypass, So they have the bypass machine, and then they cut out the bad part of the artery that collapsed, and they put in a new piece, and they took my arteries out of my up here in the mammary gland area, which there are a lot of arteries in here, which were suitable to strip into your heart. And he said, we used all those arteries in the first case. I tried to use those arteries because they're 35-year arteries. Because when you get, past 30 years, post-op, they may have to replace some of those bypasses because they'll run flat. Ooh, I had friends of mine that ran flat in a week. I run flat, in 35 years. Give me the 35,000-mile treads. I'll take those. So they use arteries, these mammary area arteries. They call them something instead of the arteries that they strip out of your leg. They took them out of the leg and they laid them on the thing, but they didn't use them because they found ones that worked real well up in your in the chest area. So that's what they did. And he said they should be good for 35 years. And at 70, that makes you about 115. So if you live to 112, they may think about replacing. But at 112, you probably wouldn't be strong enough to have the surgery. So anyway, just think of it as 35,000-mile treads. Yeah. Amazing. So that's why that sign's up there. We love you, Chops. One of the best servers behind the bar that we've ever had there. And she really liked us, and she missed us big time. Just got an emergency from. This is a now. Rain starting in. That's down here. Rain starting in 5 minutes. But these other radar things. I'll do it here so you can see. How does it look now? See, this thing is running across and down. So we're. Oh, it's just past. The blue dot is where Jimmy is. Yeah, that's good. Yep. It's interesting. As it gets to Boca Raton, the lightning stops. No lightning. Out west, way west, see the lightning. But it slices across, as this cold air moves down. There's this blue thing is an electrical outage. In other words, and if I touch this, there we go. Desto County outage. Let's see. There are 4,000 862 customers of FPNL that are out of power. You know, power lines get struck by lightning and all this, from this big thing that came across there last night. So that's what that blue is. That's the basic area of outage. Not a lot of people live in that area. That's a big chunk of this of real estate. That's the outage. We don't have any outages on the East Coast here. See, we have a lot more modern electrical grid than the Arcadia. You see Arcadia's right in the middle of that sucker. We have a former sister-in-law that has a acreage and a house, lives up there with her son, daughter, husband. Marilyn's brother died early. Just dropped dead in the shower. Hardworking. He was a master electrician. And he just, he had a heart condition that he didn't know about. And, he didn't feel good and this and that. Well, he was having a heart attack. And he just didn't, he didn't put a thing on his arm and, to see what his, blood pressure was. He was probably has very high blood pressure. And, the heart rate was probably high as opposed to, he just thought it was heat frustration. I said, well, hey, look, but if you do certain things, you'll know what it is. And when you have those signs, you get a blood pressure thing on you right away. And you feel a little dizzy, a little tired, and you got a blood pressure that's, 200 over 100 or 180 over 100. When you're sitting on the couch, which is what me, it was 180 over 100. And it's that 100 number is the killer, because that's the pressure in your blood arteries, veins, when your heart isn't pumping, right? Like between pumps, squeeze. Well, when the squeeze happens, that's the top number. But when the squeeze is done, for those 50 or 70 milliseconds between the next pump, that's the 100 in a heart attack situation, or it could be even higher. So that residual pressure is what pops arteries in your brain and you get a stroke. That's why they say when you have that high blood pressure like that, you end up with strokes, because that low number there is too high. The bottom number is too high. It needs to be not high. When you're in real good shape and everything, it could be, like 128 over 70. That would be like great. That's a 35-year-old. So, my residual number's up around 80. 130 over 80, 125 over 80. It's not over 70 anymore. It's higher. So I take metropolol, which is, I take a half of metropolol. And that just slows down the heart rate just a little bit. And that tends to, decrease your blood pressure because your heart is not beating quite as fast as it could. And, so I can see on my watch here what my blood pressure is. It's 80. It's the top number on my watch here. It's 83. It's been high as 94, but it's 83. Heart points. It takes... So, what is this one? So this shows... See right now? I don't know if you can see that pulsing heart. See the red? Stop. That's my pulse, 82. Right now, exactly. 82. Whoops, sorry. 68.
Well, I mean, look, so what you think is that the Chinese Communist Party will try to interfere in the election of 2024?
So that's, 68, a pulse. I'm just sitting here yakking with you guys. So 68 is proper number. If that says 150, which is pumping twice as fast, then, and you're sitting on a couch, then you got a problem. That's what I was sitting. It was 6 o'clock news. I'm watching the news. I'm not very agitated over the news. I'm just sitting there, and all of a sudden, I feel, something in my chest area is not exactly right. It's not muscle contraction, you can make up all kinds of stories. But I started feeling, and then I felt my pulse, and I said, holy crap, my pulse is really up there. And I was sitting on a couch. That's not, when you're working out, you can understand or you're running, you can understand your heart rate up. But, to service your muscles. But sitting on the couch watching news, 150, I don't think so. So I immediately got my blood pressure thing, and it was like through the roof. I said, oh my God, I gotta. So I got my ditty bag together, things to charge my watch and my, iPhone and my iPad. Grabbed an iPad, had my iPhone, threw it all in the bag, with a brush and mouthwash, and and a picture of all my meds, like 5 of them, 6 of them. So I knocked on the glass window because Marilyn was out on the patio talking to her sister on the phone. I opened up the closet. I said, Marilyn, we're going to the hospital right now. I'm having a cardiac event. So she got off the phone like lightning. We shot out the door. I said, get some shoes on, because you're going to be there a while, maybe, if you'd be so kind. So, they wired me up and said, oh, boy. Then they did a blood test to see if I had that very special enzyme that happens, when you have a heart attack with heart damage. Well, if you've had a little bit of heart muscle damage, there's an enzyme that's released into the bloodstream. So then they know if you had a heart attack because you don't have heart damage, generally every day, or else you wouldn't have a heart in a week. But so I felt something wasn't right. So that's it. Went right to the hospital. Walked in the front door and said, I'm having a heart attack right now. So I need a wheelchair. We needed Marilyn's going to check me in. I said, so this is, I would call this an emergency. So hit your buzzer and emergency me in to this area because I'm having a heart attack right now. And I sat slouched over in the wheelchair. I mean, it wasn't like, excruciating pain. It was just, I knew my heart was fucking exploding, and woo! Oh, sorry for the word. Anyway, so it's very dramatic. So when, so they gave me a heparin drip with a, what do you call it? Nitroglycerin. Literally, nitroglycerin pills. You heard of that? Well, they have an aqueous solution of that. And, they hang it on a drip bag along with the heparin, which is an anticoagulant kind of a thing. And then they give you the nitroglycerin, which dilates all your arteries, so the blood moves, more easily through your whole body, decreasing blood pressure big time when everything gets dilated, chemically. So I was on a heparin nitroglycerin drip for, like 5 days before surgery. It took 5 days to, figure out the course of surgery and to get the surgeon. And that's another story. Ooh, I had to get chained. They had to ambulance me up to Delray because the Boca, they didn't have enough people to do what I needed to have done. Oh, can you imagine? So I live a mile from the hospital, and they got to take me up to Delray, which Delray Medical Center is good. Nice, good place. So, and that's where my surgeon practices. Every day. He has surgery, privileges in Boca Raton Community Hospital, which is now part of the Humana, or Baptist something. But his whole team of people are up there. So it's better that I go up there so their whole team is not disassembled. Because he could come down here and use someone else's team, or I go up there and we use his team. I said, doesn't it make sense to put me up there? Because that way his whole team that he's used to working with, because you got a lot of moving parts in a surgery procedure like this. It's not just one guy, clipping off a piece of cancer. He said, yep, a lot of moving parts. And I said, well, don't you think we should go up there? He said, I definitely recommend we go to Delray Medical Center. I said, okay, make it happen. So that was Saturday. Sunday, I was in an ambulance. They Velcro you, in the thing that they put in the back of the ambulance, the stretcher arrangement. And now I know why they Velcro you in, because you get tossed around. It's like Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I said, what the hell are you doing? Jeez. Tell that guy up there to take his turns a little more gradually. There is a package back here that is delicate. Oh, that was 40 minutes of hell. The ambulance ride, I mean, nice guys, but it was, they didn't have the best suspension, in this. It's not like riding in the back of a Cadillac. You're riding in, as converted, whatever the hell it is, they're all conversions of something else. Anyway, so that's my story. And, all right, so it's 10:33. I've been talking to you for an hour and 23 minutes in a variety of topics. And I think we should see that weather situation. Let's get a bigger view. Slow that down a little bit. There we go. We can see what's going on. That's some future radar in there also. It's actually taking you to 11:10. If you see the time, it goes from, the real thing to the projected. And the projected doesn't have any lightning. That's why you see the lightning stop. Because that last 40 minutes or 30 minutes, yeah, it's about the last 30 minutes is without lightning. Because they don't know how to project. They don't bother projecting the lightning. They're just projecting the path and the intensity of the cloud situation. Can I do 3D here? No. 3D was this radar. Okay. So with that, we got lots of news here. And we'll try to, of course, we'll change up the topics. Because tomorrow I'll probably, Maryland, hopefully will safely arrive here. And then tomorrow we'll get on the air again and have a chat, since everything, I think, electronically is operating. So with that, I'm going to get ready to finish this up. Yeah, wise guys. Oh, yeah, we're happy to see Jimmy stop talking. See you tomorrow.